Hey, yo, guys, welcome back to Around the Leagues, the #1 podcast for teams who lose preseason games and their fans get upset. I'm Keanan Allstott, as always, my co-host Luke Parrish.
What's up?
And today, if you haven't noticed, we got a special guest coming to us live from 8.9 seconds, introducing, making his podcast debut, Mr. Rhett Bauer.
What's going on, guys? Happy to be here.
Yeah, so if you guys don't know, Rhett writes with me at 8.9 seconds. I'm the site manager, editor, I don't know what they call it. Rhett's one of my new writers. How long have you been there? About a month or so, maybe?
Yeah, just about a month. Yeah,
we've got a whole bunch of new guys. When I started, there was, I believe, one writer there. And then we've picked up Rhett and a handful of other guys in the last, month and a half, I believe. So trying to get that back going. But today, obviously, it's on our usual schedule, but we're going to be doing basketball, NBA stuff. Obviously, we're Pacers fans. Keanan, unfortunately, is a Knicks fan. So we got that to look forward to. They play each other opening night, the 23rd.
Yes, sir.
Then Pacers preseason kicked off. Well, I guess tipped off and be kicked off, but started on I need my days. Saturday night against Cleveland. So we'll talk about that a little bit. But before we go forward, I want to go back. So what do you think of just how last season ended? How the Pacers ended, how the NBA season, and just in general, how that shaped up?
For the Pacers side of things, I think it could not have ended any better, which is surprising because we got our butts kicked by Miami in every facet of the game and looked completely outclassed. Then they ended up going to the finals, so we were outclassed. But realistically, that was the straw that broke the camel's back, and that's what caused Nate McMillan to get fired. The extension, everybody's talked about it all summer, the extension, and then a week later he gets fired. But had they not gotten swept like that, I think McMillan would still be the head coach. And not that I want him to lose his job. Obviously that's not
right.
Great. You're not excited about that, but the direction the Pacers needed to be going in was very different from what McMillan was known for. And so I think we saw in the preseason game on Saturday, it's a very different direction. And so I'm excited that it was the right decision to move on from McMillan and then bring in Bjorkgren and start playing some modern basketball.
And, it's funny you bring up Bjorkgren because throughout the offseason, there was a lot of talk of who was going to end up being that head coach. D'Antoni was rumored for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Becky Hammond was rumored for a little bit. Who's the assistant for the 76ers? He was rumored, I think.
I don't remember his name, but I know Chris Finch from New Orleans was also rumored.
Finch was one,
yeah.
And it felt like Bjorkgren kind of came out of nowhere there at the last second and landed the job out there from Toronto. And
I think he was very quiet.
Yeah. But that's the Pacers, right? Anytime, and I tweeted this out not that long ago, especially during the free agency stuff, is anything you hear getting out, it's probably not from the Pacers. Right. The organization isn't putting stuff out. It's agents. It's people who have an agenda trying to get some information out there and get some leverage one way or another. So it's not surprising at all that Bjorkgren came out of nowhere. But it would have been surprising for Mike D'Antoni to come in and be the coach. I'll be honest about that.
Yeah, I think early on, I was attached to that name just because, that's a big name, right?
Oh, yeah.
Don't get a guy like that. I'm like, that's one I want. And then I started seeing these other names come out. I was all on board Becky Hammond because of everything she's done. You see, she's been in San Antonio. If you can get somebody from that coaching staff, regardless of who it is, you're going to be in good shape. So,
yep.
But I like the Bjorkgren hire so far. Even after just one preseason game, you see a completely different team. And like you said, that playoff sweep, it sucks in the moment, but it's a blessing in disguise because you get to see McMillan go, and hopefully he finds success wherever else he goes. But the Pacers it wasn't working for them. They were just kind of floating in mediocrity, and now they look like they're trending in the right direction and fitting modern basketball. So that's all. It's the most I can ask for at this point. I've sat through a lot of boring basketball years.
Yeah. So. A lot of non-changes in the playoffs, a ton of losses where we just do the same thing over and over again. So glad to see a change there.
You guys make the playoffs?
Yeah, what's that? What's that?
Gosh.
I don't know. this year everybody's talking like they're not going to make the playoffs. A lot of people have them like 10th, 11th in the East, and I'm just like, come on.
That's people
Yeah.
that don't understand Pacers basketball. Like, we're not going to get to the conference finals, but by golly, we'll be in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, that starting five is one of the best in the league, top to bottom. They just don't have that one killer, and that's
Yeah.
what's going to hurt them. And I mean, now we're talking about James Harden's going to end up in Philly probably. Well, I mean, that's just another team that they're going to see in the playoffs that's going to have somebody take over and kill them. So,
Yeah.
what can you do at that point?
Yeah.
But yeah, since we're already talking about it, what do you expect out of this season?
I expect us to be worse than we have been in regular seasons past, and that's a good thing. I think that it's important to have a super deep rotation and to get guys like Edmund Sumner, Cassius Stanley, Keelan Martin, dudes like that, to get them meaningful minutes rather than just throwing them in a 20-point blowout. And just like, those games don't matter. Those minutes don't matter. You make mistakes, whatever. There's no consequences. There's no stakes. And I think that was something that we saw on Saturday was Cassius Stanley was in there with the starters in Aaron Holiday's role in like the second quarter.
Yeah.
And that's so different from what McMillan did. And I'm hopeful that continues forward because we have Goga, we have Sumner, we have Stant, like all of these guys that just didn't get minutes under McMillan because every single regular season game was a must win. And I understand in a small market, like you can't afford to lose games because you need as much attention as you can get.
Right.
But I think like the team, like we don't have very much young talent, but the young talent we do have is being squandered if we don't give them meaningful minutes.
Yeah, and I think like looking at like you said, the game on Saturday night, just seeing everybody run that rotation, get them minutes, because if you're playing a guy in a blowout, like you said,
Yeah.
they're not going to be playing against
No.
other rotation guys. They're going to be playing against
Nope.
other bench warmers, so they're not going to get any sort of feel for the game.
Yeah.
So you're not doing anybody any favors, and I think. Yeah, Stanley, he had a turnover his first possession, like his second touch of the game. He took it out of bounds, but like, hey, it's good to see. I mean, you've got to bounce back, and he did that. He hit I think he hit a three later in the fourth quarter.
Yep, sure did.
I mean, just getting them run. I mean, Sumner, every year we're like, is he going to take that next step?
Yep.
Well, he just hasn't because he hasn't had that chance. It's the same thing. I wish they would have kept Alize Johnson because he's a guy who always gave them hustle off the bench, and now they finally would have had a chance to probably see him in the rotation a little bit more. And he's left, gone to Toronto, but we'll see how that works out for his career. But yeah,
So let me ask you guys this: with those young players that you were mentioning, with Stanley, Sumner, all those guys, about how many minutes per game do you see those guys contributing to the Pacers, and what kind of production do you see them adding to the floor?
I mean, it depends on how the guys are going, because I think Aaron Holiday is going to get the bulk of the minutes for if you're going to classify him in the young group, especially with Warren out. I mean, we saw him start, which was weird. I don't know if you caught that on the pregame. They listed Holiday as the forward or as a forward, which is, I mean, he was definitely playing just an extended guard, but I mean, I'm not going to put a 6 foot.
If anything, Brogdon was the forward, just as by nature of being the biggest one out there as far as the guards.
It was a little bit odd, but
I
would assume Holiday gets the bulk. He's probably he hovered around 24 a game last year. I'm assuming he's in a similar role this year. 24 to 30 would be my guess. Sumner and Stanley, ideally they're going to get 10 to 12, but I don't know if that's going to be consistent enough.
So my thing with that, somebody asked me that as well, is like, is it possible that Goga gets 12 minutes a game? And I said, yes, but it's not going to be 12 minutes a game. He's going to get 20 minutes one game. He's going to get 8 minutes another game. It's going to be so inconsistent because of the way that this season's going to be structured. I think with the shortened season, and sometimes you got 4 games, 5 nights, back-to-backs, all of that. With Domas having plantar fasciitis, like, it wouldn't surprise me to see him play like 24 minutes in one game and then give Goga the other 24 minutes at center. So, like, I think that's how it's going to be, because we just have way too many dudes to be trying to get. Like, you can't get your starters 28 minutes and your bench players all 10 minutes, because we have, I think we played 11 guys in actual minutes before the fourth quarter started, and we threw out all the bench and the young guys. So that's how the minutes are going to be spread out. It's not going to be a consistent number straight across the board, except for Aaron, like you said. I think he'll be right around that 25-minute mark pretty much every single game, if not higher.
Yeah. I think it sucked because on Saturday the Pacers, they didn't have Goga. He was out with
Yeah.
I can't remember what the injury was. No,
It was ankle or something like that.
oh yeah, it was a high ankle sprain.
Yeah.
And Jakar Sampson was doubtful, then he was active, and then he didn't play until the fourth quarter when they emptied the bench. But they didn't have any of their bigs to back up Sabonis and Turner, so they had to split those minutes throughout the first three quarters. So then we really didn't even get to see how they're going to spread those minutes either, how they're going to split those two on the floor and then have one on the floor, one off, because they just had to keep one of them on the floor basically at all times.
Yeah.
Made it a little bit tricky, and then foul trouble was an issue again. Mm-hmm. Who cares because it's preseason.
Yeah.
But if only they had that power forward depth that the Knicks have.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, it's just. I hope Aaron Holiday gets his minutes. I think when we saw it a lot on Saturday, he's a very good shot creator, whether it's for himself or for his teammates. He creates space, he finds open looks, and he's looking to be a better passer this year, which is what we saw. But just turnovers killed everybody. So I'm not gonna discredit him at all because that game was an absolute mess. I think it was 51 combined turnovers.
Yeah, it was.
How do you watch that? It's over a turnover a minute.
Yeah. So the thing that I took away from that game, and I talked with Alex Golden about it last night on Setting the Pace, was all those turnovers came from players trying to do things they normally wouldn't do. Like there were a ton of forced passes, trying to get the ball up the floor, trying to swing the ball. Like there was a ton of stuff that was just like system mistakes, I feel like, because I think Miles was a great example of this. There were so many times where he made mistakes on rotations or trying to do too much with the ball in his hands. But hey, guess what? He had the ball in his hands. Crazy. So like he's so not used to that. And there's so many people that I think are just trying to get the speed of an actual NBA game to tie into the system that Bjorkgren's been running in preseason or in training camp. And I think that was an encouraging sign to take those chances and try to get that pass in. There were like 3 lobs, which is crazy for a Pacers team.
Yeah, we're used to just the boring, no high-flying offense we saw. I mean, one lob wasn't even close, but
no, it wasn't close at all. But
but yeah, I mean, I expect Miles to make his mistakes. I mean, he's playing at a much faster pace. He's playing kind of in a different role. So yeah, his first real action, I think he's going to struggle, but it's just a matter of if he can settle in. But I mean, next question I've got, and this can go for you as well, Keanan. What are you guys most excited about, whether for the NBA or for the Pacers or the Knicks? Just what are you most looking forward to this season?
For me, Pacers-wise, I'm excited to see what the starting lineup can do healthy with a new system that's more modern. I think that's going to be huge, and I think everybody's going to benefit from that. As far as the NBA goes, I think it's as deep as it's been in quite some time, for probably the last 10 years or so. But I mean, they expanded the playoffs essentially, so where 20 teams could potentially make the playoffs, and even that isn't going to be enough in the West, I think. So that's going to be pretty exciting.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about the Knicks, they lost their preseason game last night, so we're getting started early. So, hey, the number 8 pick ain't gonna draft itself. But no, really for the Knicks, I'm excited to see what Coach Thibodeau does with that team. Fitzdale, if you like winning 25 games a year, he's your guy. Don't get me wrong. RJ Barrett, I'm excited to see how he continues to develop. I'm excited to get Kevin Knox the fuck out of town. If we can get Obi Toppin involved and try to get him some big minutes, that'd be awesome as well. There's a lot of how do I want to say this? There's a lot of second string guys on the Knicks right now that are being starters, like Austin Rivers, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. And then and that's your star guys who would be bench warmers on any other team.
Oh,
then
they were. Austin Rivers was 7th man on the Rockets.
You have Theo Pinson, Dennis Smith Jr. You just got these trash I don't know.
Dennis Smith gonna start at point?
No,
I
no
don't
way.
think so. I don't think so.
Who's their number one point guard?
Alfred Payton.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
my bad.
Yeah.
Come on, get with it.
Someone
Gee.
told me the other day that he had like double-digit career triple doubles, and
Yeah.
I almost put all the money I had in my pocket on the fact that he didn't. But sure enough, he did.
Yeah.
But like none of them have been within a meaningful amount of time. NBA wise, this one is kind of. It's not that I'm most excited for it, but it's what I'm most interested in. I want to see how they handle playing in home arenas this year, because we've talked about it on the podcast before. A lot of these teams share the same arenas as NHL teams, and if an NHL team, if someone comes down with COVID or something, how does that affect the corresponding NBA team that plays in the same arena, and vice versa? So I'll be really interested to see how those protocols go. Because if we've looked at all the major sports leagues so far, the only two leagues that had success in terms of keeping COVID out of their league were the NHL and the NBA, when the NBA was in Orlando and the NHL was in Toronto and Edmonton, respectively. MLB had major problems this season when it came to controlling COVID. You had the Marlins shut down, the Cardinals shut down. Absolute just clustermuck up there in the MLB. The NFL, we've seen it. They play in these away stadiums. You had the Titans have to take a very early bye week. You've seen the Ravens essentially screw the Steelers over pretty badly because they had to play them on short notice. They ended up winning, but then they had to play Washington, and then they had to play and so it's been a mess. So I'll be really interested to see how that works out throughout the duration of the season.
Yeah, I think the NBA's already had it's not a lot, but they've had 8 new tests this week, which in a small sample, that's somewhat significant, especially when you're coming out of 0 all last or
That's
during
also,
the bubble.
those tests include staff as well, so it's not just players.
Yeah.
Like the scope of the test is way bigger than what you may
Right.
think off the rip.
And I get kind of where they're coming from, because you can't play a 6-month schedule in a bubble, right? I mean, it was
No.
hard enough trying to do the 6-week or 8-week schedule in a bubble. But as we get kind of closer here to February and March, and maybe as this COVID vaccine kind of gets distributed, maybe they start allowing fans into the buildings. If it's kind of hard to predict 90 days down the future, but if we still get these COVID outbreaks within franchises, I mean, how does that affect teams? Are you gonna have teams playing 7 games in 8 days? Are you gonna extend the season? Are you just gonna go based off the winning percentage at the end of the year? A lot of things you have to take into account.
Yeah, it's gonna make for a very interesting season again, especially with in the NFL, right? You see, if a guy tests positive or if he's on the reserve list and he can't play, that's 1 of 53. That might not be as significant. Now, if it's Lamar Jackson, yeah, it's going to make a difference for Baltimore. But
Yeah, they'll move
NBA,
the whole game a week for that,
Yeah.
Or
The
2 or
NBA,
3 or 4.
You've got 8, 9-man rotations, pretty much. If one of those guys is out and you're throwing in a 2-way player to take those minutes or something, that can completely devastate a team. So we'll see how I want to see how not only the league handles it, but how teams and coaching staffs handle it as well, just how they're going to have to manage their minutes. And I know they've changed the 2-way roster this year, and you can have 50 games or whatever now instead of whatever it was before. But for myself, I think TJ Warren's the guy I'm looking forward to for the Pacers. I just want to see, obviously he had a big year last year, led the team in scoring. If he can do it again this year, I think he can, if they let him just shoot the ball. Don't let Vic take 30 shots. Just let Warren. If you want anybody on that team taking the bulk of the shots, it's got to be him. I think he can be a 20-point-per-game scorer. And then the NBA, I guess, if I want to stay on a broad scope, Markelle Fultz is one player that I'm so excited to watch. I think he's finally starting to take that step we've expected since his rookie year.
Yep.
I think getting out of Philly was good for him, and I think he had a good end to his year last year. I think this could be a year where he takes off again. So I'll be watching a little bit more of the Magic than I ever anticipated. So
And got in for that 10 seed.
Yeah, it's the Magic, the Hornets, and the Kings are my teams to watch this year. The Kings suck, but I mean I've always got to watch the Aaron Fox. So,
Yeah.
Man, LaMelo Ball. Listen, I'm not the biggest ball guy. That sounds real sus. Never mind.
That's pretty pause, bro. That's pause.
I mean, LiAngelo just got cut. Lonzo, I like coming out, but I don't think he's ever reached where I thought he was going to be. But then again, he's been bounced around. He went to LA, obviously, gets traded, just trying to find his way. I think he's going to have a big year in New Orleans, but LaMelo,
I'm shocked that 3-star Chinese shoplifter got cut out of Detroit.
I mean, Detroit's just Knicks Central at this point. They're taking all the forwards now. But
They decided to go for the centers instead of the power forwards. The Knicks had all the power forwards. Plumlee, $20 million.
Man, I can't wait to watch that matchup. It's gonna be no made shots, but just a ton of rebounds both ways. It's gonna be.
Well, they played last night. The Knicks and Pistons.
Yeah.
Yeah, boy, that was. Neither team broke 100, as you can imagine.
God, it's brutal.
You got Julius Randle shooting threes. You got some bad shooting.
You
on the
guys'
floor.
starting lineup is hilarious because Randle honestly might be the best floor spacer on the. I guess if Burks is starting, he is, but like Randle is up there, which is terrifying.
I know. It's.
How do the Knicks lose games and lose the lottery every year?
It's a special skill. You know what I mean? Like. James Dolan's a different breed, man. Like, I think he sold his soul to get Lafreniere for the Rangers, and he's just like, yeah, I'll let my basketball team be ass for the next 2 decades.
That's kind of funny you say that because I was just thinking, like, it's wild that like New York's this big media market and everybody wants to play in New York. The Jets suck. The Giants are just very much whatever. The Rangers had the number 1 pick. The Knicks are dog shit. What's the appeal to New York?
I don't know. I mean, I think New York sports in general just fall back on tradition quite a bit. I mean, a lot of like the first teams in all these big, a lot of the first teams in a lot of these big markets were in those cities, and it's like, hey, man, like you get a chance to play in the Mecca. It's okay. How many times have the Knicks been embarrassed in the Mecca? Like, goodness gracious.
More than I can count, that's for sure.
I can only watch Mike Bibby or Duncan Robinson drop 45 in the Garden so many times,
I don't know, dude. It never gets old. You had Jeremy Lin for that like week.
I mean, now I will say that 1 week was pretty fire when he dropped the 3 over Calderon up in Toronto. I was like, hey, we might have something. And then I think they played the Heat or something and got embarrassed again in the Garden by like 40. And it was like, well, here we are again,
Yeah, I mean, the Knicks suck.
I will say though, I mean, I think that they have a direction at least. Like. The whole point is
when we traded Porzingis for cap space and then use that cap space on Theo Pinson and Damian Dotson.
I don't hate trading Porzingis. I personally don't like him as a player.
Don't forget about big game Bobby Portis. We had to make sure he was on the roster.
Yeah, Taj Gibson. Gotta get him too.
Man. The only team in the league that would offer Julius Randle $65 million. Julius Randle, as soon as he said it, or as soon as he saw the contract, he thought he was dreaming. Couldn't put his name on it fast enough.
Is there a period I'm missing? Is that 6.5 or no, that's actually 65?
Man, that's gotta suck to be a Knicks fan.
I know. It's not fun. I'll tell you that.
Before we will definitely talk about this season opener, which the Pacers are going to kick their ass. But before that, one guy that I think it's up and down every year is he going to get traded? Is he going to reach his all-star potential? Miles Turner. Does he actually do it this year? I've been thinking he's going to do it for a while, but I think he was stuck with McMillan for so long that it hindered him too much. Like, just not even fun for him, not fun for me trying to watch him thrive. And Sabonis is in there taking all his rebounds. Everybody's like, "Oh, this dude can't rebound." Well, Sabonis is
Yeah.
putting up like 13 a night. He's not going to get that many.
Yeah.
Do you think he can take a step finally?
Yes. So I think he will take a step. It's just whether or not he takes that step on the Pacers. So
Okay.
yeah, there you go. So my whole thing is that Miles Turner is the most important player this season because either A, he and Domas work out together because Miles realizes his potential as that stretch big shot blocker and all of that, or he looks good doing that, and the Pacers move him because some team sees that he can be that lone big that he needs to be. And so that was another benefit of the bubble and Domas not being there. Other than Miles's terrible game one, like he was right up there with Bam. I know Bam's numbers looked great, but like 15 and 10 with 3 blocks and a 3 on like 36% shooting from 3, like that's a really good player. And I think that that's something that Miles can show this year. And I'm really hoping that they try to keep Miles and Domas's minutes like
staggered
like,
a little bit.
Yeah, you got like because the whole thing is that the bench unit fell apart without Domas because Nate McMillan tried to put Miles in Domas's role. And that's not at all going to work because Miles and Domas have very different skill sets. Miles doesn't set those screens, but Miles can shoot way better. So I think Bjorkgren is going to have to figure that out a little bit to try and both improve the team by getting Miles a better fit as the lone center, but also showcase him a little bit just in case you do decide to move him.
Yeah.
And if I can just intervene here, not as a giant Pacers fan, but I am kind of a pseudo Raptors fan here. I mean, if I got to root for someone good, you know what I mean? I can't just root for terrible teams all the time. But if you look at the system they ran in Toronto for the last couple of years with Ibaka and Gasol up there, I mean, I think they could do something pretty similar if Bjorkgren wants to take, some of the things he learned from Nick Nurse into Indiana and kind of use Turner and Sabonis, similar to how they used Ibaka and Gasol up there. And if you kind of think about it, they got a lot of I don't want to say similar pieces, but it's kind of the similar lineup, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got Victor Oladipo, who can kind of play your Kawhi Leonard role. You got who's your main point guard up there? Is it Holiday?
Brogdon or
Brog-
Aaron Holiday, yeah.
And Brogdon could probably be a real good Kyle Lowry type or something. And then, you got to find some shooting. I think that the pieces in Indiana really they complement what Bjorkgren has been used to up in Toronto. And I think he's going to be able to transition well here in Indiana and find success very early on.
Yeah, I think a player to keep an eye on with the Miles situation is Goga because I think Goga is very similar to Miles in his skill set. He just hasn't. I mean, obviously last year he played. I think he played in like 53 games, but it was like
he was like 8 minutes a game.
Yeah,
total.
He'd get 2 minutes, and then he would he would spot start occasionally, and it wasn't enough to see him. But if he does, develop into this bigger role, and they can kind of afford to stagger him and Domas, then it makes Miles way more valuable
disposable.
So they can get rid of him without really having to think too much about it, especially if they're getting something. I mean, they need wing depth. If TJ Warren's going to miss time, you cannot consistently roll out Edmund Sumner and Aaron Holiday as a pseudo 3.
No.
But I think I'm excited for Goga this year. Hopefully he stays healthy and they can find a way to use him. But, health has just not been on their side the last couple of years. So,
well, that's what just pissed me off so bad last year is like, okay, you've got the 2 bigs. You're going to talk about trying to use the 2 bigs, and then you draft Goga. It's like, okay, that is a cheap contract who has a skill set very similar to the guy that you want to trade in Miles. And then you don't give him any minutes. So you don't even get to see if he can do what he's supposed to do. So you put yourself in a corner because you're like, okay, maybe Goga can do this. I don't know. And so I completely agree. Goga needs to have a much bigger role this year because either you're going to know what he can do and you're fine moving Turner, like you said, or you're not. And that changes what you kind of want in a return for a trade because you need a backup center.
Yeah, and I think like we saw with him last year, every now and again he would have a nice flash. I can't remember what game it was, but I know he came in, he blocked a shot, went down and hit a three, and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
Goga might be
Yeah.
legitimately something they can work on, but
Hmm.
they just you don't see any sort of improvement when you're playing the guy every other night
Hmm.
for 10 minutes, and then you're just,
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Especially
just,
when, like we said, those 10 minutes don't matter. They're against
yeah,
Thon
the
Maker.
Pistons, the Pistons
Like,
backed up 5 or whatever. It's
yeah.
just, like, that's the one thing I'm very excited about with Bjorken is just how is he going to use the young guys and how are they going to all play the floor at the same time? Like we saw basically crunch time the other night. I don't even know the guy's name.
Hammonds.
Rayshawn Hammonds. Yeah, he was
Yeah.
with the Mad Ants last year, I believe.
Yeah.
And doesn't play the entire preseason game, and they put him in with like 50 seconds left in a tie game. I'm like, I don't know.
And he had 2 fouls in that 50 seconds.
Yeah, it's that was a very odd situation.
The Mitch Robinson special, huh?
Man, it's just, I don't know. It's going to be a very interesting season for them because they do have a lot of pieces. It's just they all play very similar roles.
Yeah.
I mean, do you play Stanley and Sumner on the floor at the same time? Because I think they're very similar. I mean, Aaron Holiday, I would rather him play the backup 1 than the backup 2.
Yeah.
I don't love McConnell, but his energy is something that you kind of have to respect and keep on the floor. So it's a very tricky backcourt. Now, if they can develop Stanley into more of a defensive wing, that'll be great, but that's going to be the big question. But last question I've got before I want to talk about this Knicks game. Why do the Pacers never get respect in the media?
Because we don't have a star.
Yeah. I mean,
That's it.
Oh, it's a small market, or
Yeah.
like, oh, they're not going to make the playoffs this year. They're not a good team. It's like I feel like they're pretty good.
Yeah, and that's absolutely true. But I think it's fair this season to question whether or not the Pacers would make the playoffs, way more than in past seasons. Like last year, anybody who said the Pacers wouldn't make the playoffs, that's just silly. I guess you could point to Oladipo still being injured and Brogdon taking on a bigger role. I'm not sure what that's going to look like, but the East was garbage last year.
Yeah.
Like it was like you could, yeah, like the Knicks were close to making the playoffs. So it's like, whoa, that's. But for this year, I think you look at the teams below the Pacers last year, and they all have a player better than the best player on the Pacers. Like Brooklyn comes in, obviously they have the 2 best players on the court of the starting lineups. Obviously, Pacers probably have 3 through 5 or 6, however you want to put Karis LeVert. But then you got Atlanta got significantly better. They got a lot of win now pieces that solve a lot of their issues. Washington traded a question mark and Wall for Westbrook. Like that's a playoff berth. Yeah. And then Charlotte got Hayward, who's a competent basketball player, which is more than you can say for Charlotte. Like they needed a vet in there like that. So
yeah. And the Knicks got Austin Rivers, so you better look out,
Yeah, I mean that's if the Knicks are going to change the league by running 5 power forwards out there, then that's you got to watch out.
I mean, you don't want smoke with Steph Curry's brother-in-law. You know what I mean? I'm just saying.
It's in the blood, kind of.
The East is very deep. Just with, I mean, Brooklyn, I think is going to get the 1 seed. Boston's still up there.
Oh wow, no way.
Really?
No. Kyrie and KD won't play all the games.
That is true.
Yeah.
Which I think it's funny that the league said you can sit, you just can't sit a game that's on ESPN because we need the money.
Yeah.
Like okay.
All the rules, it's like you have to be sitting on the bench, but you like I just silly.
You can sit in small market arenas. You can't.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
High profile players. Like,
yeah,
it's like Domas a high profile player? Like, can he just sit whenever with no consequences? I don't know.
It's gonna be interesting. It's such a funny rule to be like, hey, LeBron, you can play, but you don't have to play against the Magic if you really don't feel like going out there. But it's so weird to just like make that like a public thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Philly, they're going to give people troubles. I think you're going to get that occasional 40-20 from Embiid, probably against the Pacers. The East, there's just so many teams who will compete. I mean, I think the Magic fall off. I don't think they're going to be back in the playoffs.
Yeah. And they should fall off without Isaac. Like they as a team should fall off on purpose. Like
yeah. I wonder. Aaron Gordon's another guy like Miles Turner. He's always rumored to be on the move. Do they finally just get rid of him? I mean, they've been trying to.
I think that's a trade deadline move.
Yeah.
They'll showcase him this year, similar to the Miles situation. Like when Domas got hurt, you got to see Turner as the lone 5, and now so Isaac is hurt, and Aaron Gordon can now play the 4, which is his better position. And I think that that's going to be a good deal, but I don't think they want to be that bad to where they want to trade him right now. And I think teams want to see what Aaron Gordon can do in that role. I thought for sure Portland would go for it, but they got Covington, which is a much better deal for them. So
yeah, I really like Robert Covington. I think he's one like
perfect next to Domas.
Yeah, that's what I was always hoping. If they traded Miles, I was wanting Rocco in return, but it has never obviously happened. But I mean, that's all I've got with the bullshit preseason stuff. But hey,
I will say,
today?
Drummond, 15 minutes, only 4 rebounds.
Yeah,
He would have a double-double.
I was very prepared to be heartbroken when Drummond goes out and puts 30 rebounds in a preseason game. I mean, that dude. Drummond's always been a guy that, like, man, I think he's like insanely talented, but he's been on a dog shit Pistons team. Then he goes to Cleveland. He's not gonna do anything there, and I'm like, whenever I watch him play the Pacers, this dude's. I mean, obviously he was averaging like what they say 17 and 14 a game against Indiana over a 20-game stretch.
Yeah, I think he said he had like 12 straight double-doubles against the Pacers or something like that. It's like 4 straight years of double-doubles against the Pacers. It's just ridiculous.
They just never had an answer. It's him and Embiid. The Pacers just cannot stop him on the glass. And, I mean, hopefully he gets a chance to play. I would have hoped to see him go somewhere that can contend. But, hey, preseason, only 4 rebounds. I'll take it.
Yeah, we'll see again tonight. That's one thing that I was really watching out for is Miles boxing out, because that's what you're going to talk about. Miles only averaging 6 rebounds, but like, okay, would you rather Miles get the rebound or Miles box the shit out of Drummond so that Vic can come in and get the rebound or something like that? It's like, give me B every single time.
Which, I mean, I saw that a lot, like, just over the past few years. Like, yeah, there's rebounds he should get, especially he gives up a lot of offensive boards that he definitely needs to come away with. But there's so many occasions where he is kind of boxing out, or at least in the way, and letting the guards come in and grab it.
Yep.
I'm like, sorry he only has 4 rebounds, but Brogdon has 7 because
Vic has 6. Holiday has 5. Like, there's boards going around. It's not like we're not getting rebounds, and we're not a great rebounding team, or we haven't been in the past. But like, look at the totality and the context of the rebounding numbers, and not Miles specifically. Anybody who points to that, just like, they don't watch the games; they just look at the box score.
Yeah, and that's typical Pacers fan. I mean, that's why I do like Cassius Stanley too. Is he's a good rebounding guard, and I think that's going to fit in well with what they want to do. So maybe, I mean, if he can run in and kind of be that transition starter at some point down the road, that'd be great. But what's today? The 13th, 14th.
Yep.
9 days away.
8 days
8 days from the NBA season starting. 9 days from the real season starting. Knicks don't play on Christmas, do they?
No, unfortunately not. Got robbed of that spot.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm glad I get to watch the Vikings and not the Knicks on Christmas this year.
Watching the Knicks at 11 a.m.
That'll ruin your entire day.
Yeah, I mean, it's been my tradition for like the last I don't know how many years, but you know, I guess ESPN didn't want to see old insert bench warmer here play the 4. You know what I mean? Just hey.
I mean, it's truly a travesty to see that squad doesn't get
the respect. I know.
Yeah, I mean, it's just heartbroken on this side, man.
Frank Ntilikina is pissed. Let me tell you, he could not be more mad.
Instead, they get 2 days before Christmas, so they get, a little showcase, warm everybody up.
Yeah, we don't even get Christmas Eve. We get Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
No one cares about that date. They're out watching Christmas lights or whatever bullshit they're doing.
It's better than watching the Knicks, because let me tell you, the Pacers are going to kill them.
You think so?
I'm honestly not. I have no expectations because it's their first real game under a new
Well, I was
coach.
going to say, the last time the Knicks traveled to Bankers Life, they dropped a dub on the Pacers.
That is true. They almost beat them twice last year. I believe Julius Randle choked the free throws in their first matchup and then ended up losing. So
I was in attendance for that Knicks-Pacers game in Indy last year, and the Knicks it surprised me because I don't think the Pacers hit a 3 in the first half. And
not.
Well, when you only take 6, it's not a surprise.
I was like, man, I think we're going to sneak one out of here. And then we got up by like 13 or 15. And I'm like, man, are we really going to do it? And then we ended up winning. And I'm like, well, instead of the number 6 pick, we're going to get the number 8 pick. So
Yeah.
I guess
Hey,
OB
we're just
Toppin's
doing our
coming
part.
home. You
Yeah,
know?
they wouldn't take him at 6 anyway. So, I mean, yeah, it's going to be interesting because I don't trust the Pacers to come out hot right away. And then
No.
and they've obviously their schedule. It starts off with, I think it's the Knicks and the Cavs.
I think so. And then it starts to get a tough.
Yeah, then they get Boston back to back.
Yeah.
Which, talk about two ends of the spectrum right there to kick off your season. I mean, if they can just beat the Knicks by like 45 and kind of settle in.
You watch it. It's going to take overtime to beat the Knicks, and you're going to be like, why does God hate me? Like,
so just to be 100% right, it goes Knicks, Bulls, Celtics, Cavs, Knicks. So
you're going to get 2 L's dropped on you in the first 6 games?
Yeah, both of them by Boston.
Man.
That should be it.
Hold on a second on that. So you did have to say overtime. That game on Saturday, I was so glad Cleveland scored at the buzzer. I don't care that because it was backups playing. I did not want to sit through an overtime game of preseason basketball. I don't know what their rules are. I don't know if they just call it. I don't care.
Play knockout for the game. Like that's it.
I do not care to see some 17th man in the crunch time of an overtime game. I'll gladly pass. So, man, I was rooting. I was so happy. I've never been so happy for a loss in my life. But
yeah,
how do you realistically see this Knicks game going?
I think the Pacers lose.
Oh,
but
I like
just
this
because
guy, Luke. Like this guy.
No, just because I don't think the Pacers are going to try to win that hard. I really like. Yeah. I think that we'll see a lot of the rotation things that we saw on Saturday, and maybe not. Maybe they'll actually come out and try to set the tone for the season and try to win. But I don't think they'll also have to try that hard to also win. So that's why I think it could go easily both ways. It could be exactly like this Cavs game where for 8 minutes of the fourth quarter, you see a ton of Keelan Martin and Cassius Stanley just to get them some extra run against somewhat competent basketball players in the Knicks starting lineup.
Yeah, I think it's going to be – I am curious to see, like, do they just go full trial and error? Because, I mean, like you said, it's the Knicks and the Bulls to start the season. You can kind of afford to take your chances with your rotation a little bit, see who works. And, like, do we see plenty of minutes from the young guys right away rather than forcing the issue with?
So I would say it's going to be a combination of things. It's going to be Cassius Stanley playing with the starters. It's going to be Goga playing in Domas's role with 4 other starters. So it's not going to be like all young guys because I do think they need to trial and error it. But I also, as I'm saying, they might not try to win. I also think they might need to get the wins when they can because you don't know what this season's going to look like. Like if Domas gets COVID and misses 10 games or something silly like that, like you can't afford to not win early. So maybe they will try and beat the Knicks handedly instead of trying to have Cassius Stanley there and play.
Okay. We've disrespected the good Knicks team too much here. We need to put a little respect on their name, all right? Let's look here. Julius Randle. Who do you got that can beat Julius Randle?
A spin
the rotation.
Yeah, a spin move and a turnover.
I was about to say I didn't hear any names. Who do you think can beat Michael Kidd Gilchrist? Okay,
Thibodeau by not playing him. Next question.
Okay, that's really funny. There's some guy named Ignis with the last name I can't pronounce. He's going to be dropping the Gatorade cups in the trash can as he's sitting on the bench. How you beating that? You know,
he'll shoot 100% from the bench. It'll be great. He'll nail it.
Yeah, no. In all honesty, the first game of the year will tell me a lot about how the Knicks are going to approach this season. 52 game schedule?
72 total, but right now I think they're only set 38 first half of the season, something like that.
So it's the NHL. It's doing the 50-some game schedule. Okay, so 72 games. The first game's going to tell me a lot. If they come out and they hustle really hard and they're running up and down the court and they're getting really easy layups, they're throwing it down, they're not trying these contested threes, I think the Knicks will try to be competitive this year.
Yeah.
If you see Alec Burke in the corner, if you see Julius Randle pulling up from three, we're gonna go ahead and just pencil ourselves in for that top 6 pick.
Yeah.
The Knicks they need pieces. It'll be interesting because the way a lot of their contracts are scheduled this year, they're gonna have a lot of cap space going into the offseason. There's been rumors that they're gonna try to make a run at Giannis. I don't think there's a snowball's chance in hell Giannis signs with the Knicks. I don't think there's a snowball's chance in hell they get a player better than Julius Randle. And I don't know what they could do this year to change it. They're just a bad team. I mean, if you look at the Nets, whenever they landed Kyrie and KD, they were a bad team, but they were at least trying to win. The Knicks,
and they had good pieces.
Yeah.
And the Knicks, they haven't tried to win for a long time, or at least they haven't shown interest in winning. If they can show some kind of interest in winning this year, maybe finish closer to 500. If they can win like 30 games this year, I think that would show free agents that there's a change in culture moving forward with Thibodeau. Leon Rose, the new GM, maybe they can kind of show a new vision for the team, and maybe we can get a legitimate starting piece in there to help boost the talent on that team. That being said, 23rd, I think the Pacers do end up winning that game. I think the Pacers probably win by like 8 or so. I think the game's going to be pretty close throughout, and I think the Pacers are going to hit free throws at the end to kind of close it out. I'll be interested to see how many minutes Toppin gets. I want to see how RJ Barrett progresses. If we can get Julius Randle kind of some just easy layups in close, that's fine. Don't be having Dennis Smith Jr. shoot 5 for 23. Like, these are very simple things. You know what I mean? I'm not a hard guy to please.
Yeah. That's a pretty low bar, but I like it.
I want to say
the problem with New York Knicks fans, and you see it all the time if you go on Twitter, everybody is super unrealistic. They're like, hey, yo, Kevin Knox is going to go 17-8 this year. It's like, no, he's not. He might go
17 games played, 8 minutes a game.
he might go 1.7 and 0.8. I'll give you that. The Knicks, they're a bad team. They've been bad for a while. They've been the longtime Cleveland Browns of the NBA. And unlike the Browns, I don't see them turning it around this season. But hey, stranger things have happened. So
yeah, I mean, you do have a point. It is an odd year. Anything could happen. I want to say, was it 2 years ago? Domas had the perfect night against the Knicks. I think he shot 12 of 12 from the field, had 30 points.
I think that was last year.
Was it? I know it was.
So. I know he had a perfect shooting night last year, but I don't remember if it was against the Knicks or not.
Damn. Because, I mean, listen, Julius Randle's going to be in for a nice, a long night. I think the Pacers just have so many pieces that can take over that they should win, but realistically, it's not always a guarantee.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with, I don't even know if Warren's probably not going to be back. We don't know how anybody's going to really play. If the Knicks are going to go with a big lineup, Pacers might be in a slight disadvantage having Holiday starting at some spot.
Well, the season doesn't start for another 8 days. They still have plenty of time to trade their team for cap space. I'm just saying, plenty of time.
Maybe the Knicks will get Harden.
No. Who are they giving up? They don't have anybody to give up.
Nobody. Nothing.
They got
you'll get Tobias Harris and you'll like it. Another power forward. Nailed it. It was 2 years ago against the Knicks that Domas was 12-12 for 30 points.
Man, that game.
Yeah, that hurt something fierce.
I just hope we get to see that consistently. Obviously, he's not going to put 30 points up a night, but Domas is the engine of the team. I mean, everything on the offensive end should run through him at some point, but I mean, they just have so many. I mean, if Brogdon continues to shoot, he shot well on Saturday,
Yeah.
and he's going to be a big piece. I think the Pacers are just in a weird spot because, like, I've always looked at it as Brogdon just seems more of a pass first two guard, and Victor's more of a shoot first ball handler,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of they have to try to kind of split who's leading the offense, and it makes it kind of confusing at times. You don't really know what's going to happen. I mean, we saw Holiday kind of in the ball handler role, even with those two both on the floor on Saturday. So a lot of guys who can step up. It's just a matter of who does it, who gets what minutes, and who fits with what rotation. So a lot of stuff they have to kind of work out early on. But
Yeah, and that's why I think that it will be a rough season, like I said, just because there's so many questions that have to be answered as far as the rotation, on top of there being a ton of guys that have those questions. So it's not just, can Vic get healthy? Can Vic and Brogdon play together? Can Miles and Domas play together? Where's Aaron Holiday going to be? Like, blah, blah, all the way down the roster. Like, there's quantity and quality questions with almost every single rotation spot on the team other than TJ Warren. So that's why I think it might be a little rough, just trying to get answers to those.
Yeah, and then of course you're gonna have fans that are like, "Well, here's another year of Pacers losing in the playoffs." It's like,
If
yeah,
anybody's
but
going to be pissed about losing this year, then they just really don't understand what it means to have a new coach. Like,
yeah,
we're not Mark Jackson to Steve Kerr or Dwayne Casey to freaking Nick Nurse. Like, we don't have a Kawhi or a Steph like, no, stop.
not even close. So I mean,
No.
if they can just get to the playoffs and put up even just a slight fight in the first round,
Yeah.
you got to be happy with. I mean, 4 straight sweeps is not necessarily something to hang your hat on. I mean, just getting back. I mean, obviously the team is on paper. The team is good enough to make the playoffs. That shouldn't be a question. It's just I don't expect them to go out there just run right through the Eastern Conference, or even they probably don't get a first round home court advantage.
No, I don't think so either.
It'd be tough to get a top 4 spot in the East, but they can still hang with the other teams. I think they can hang with a Boston, and we saw it last year. They hung with them.
Yeah.
I believe they get one win against Milwaukee last year,
Yes.
regular season.
Yep.
So I mean, they can at least compete with teams. It's just a matter of that. Are they going to beat them 4 out of 7? No.
Yeah.
But getting more playoff experience, seeing how guys work with each other, that's going to help you shape your team for at least 2021 and 22.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of go from there. You can't just force everything into 1 year and put all your eggs in one basket and then shit the bed and have to kind of start from scratch next year. So
yeah.
I mean, I'm not dying for a
it'll be really interesting to see if I'm assuming that the Pacers do get into the playoffs. There's a huge difference between adjusting for a new team across 72 games and adjusting for the same team in 4 to 7 games. And that's what McMillan really struggled with, because McMillan was an easy guy to adjust for. Like, you know what he's going to do offensively, and he couldn't adjust that to change what would happen. And so I think that's something that I'm really, really looking forward to seeing Bjorkgren do, regardless of the matchup. I mean, we saw the Magic the last 2 years up 1-0 on the 1 seed both years. Like, that's just if the Magic can beat a Giannis team, like, the Pacers should be able to win a playoff game. Like, the Magic have 2 wins in the playoffs the last 2 years. The Pacers have 0. So
yeah. Okay. One thing that I want to see Bjorkgren do is not let some random guy off the bench come in and just dominate. I don't want to see Terrence Ross score 30 a night against the Pacers for the 14th time in a row. Luke Kennard shouldn't have a career game against the Pacers.
He's in the Clippers. He's in the Clippers, so that shouldn't be a problem. He's not the Pistons' best player now.
That is true. I mean, it's just so weird. Like, it's just random guys every year. I don't even know who was the last one. There was somebody last year who had, like, I think Christian Wood had a big game on him.
Probably.
Which, he's taken off to a whole nother level, so I can understand that one a little bit. But, like, Terrence Ross, dude, come on. The dude's just a dunk guy. He's been a dunk. I don't know if he won the dunk contest or what. I don't even keep track. I don't care. But he's out here. He's hitting, like, 5-6 from 3. dominating the Pacers across 4 quarters, and you're like, all right, somebody figure out this eighth man, please.
Well, and that's another adjustment thing is like McMillan believed in his defense, and anytime you ask him about it after the game, it's like, well, we just got to execute better.
Yeah.
It's like, well, maybe instead of expecting your players to execute your plan better, maybe your plan should be different. Like maybe send more bodies at a dude who's going to drop 30 on you. It's like that's you can only expect so much from a one-on-one defensive matchup when a guy's cooking. Like it's just so I don't think that'll be as much of an issue. Obviously, there's so many different things that can happen, but I expect that to be different, especially because we don't have shoot, I completely forgot his name. Defensive coach went to the Sixers.
Burke.
Yeah, Dan Burke. I am upset that I don't remember that. But yeah, so I think the defense will just be completely different to the point where we shouldn't be so adverse to adjustments.
Yeah, I mean that is one that's going to be huge, is to see how that coaching staff, because I mean they didn't just get a new head coach. They basically they kept Bill Bano.
Yep, that's it.
But lost everybody else.
Yeah.
They brought on Calvin Cambridge, I think. Yeah,
the Canellis.
Oh yeah, Caleb Canellis, who came from the
Mavericks, I think.
Yeah, that does.
Carlisle
Rockets, but
Calbert Chaney,
which he's like a player development type role.
Yeah, and Victor Oladipo whisperer apparently.
Yeah, got the IU connection. That's all they wanted.
Yeah. Caleb Canellis, Greg Foster, not Jeff Foster, and then Calvert Chaney.
What they should do is bring Jeff Foster back as a player coach, and the boom.
Problem solved right there.
But I mean, obviously Dan Burke was huge for them, and I think all their former coaches ended up going to Philly, or somebody in their front office was in Philly. I mean, it's just Philly. If Philly wins, then we know that it wasn't the coaching staff here, but that's just an issue. But yeah, there's a lot to look forward to with the Pacers this year. I think roster-wise, very talented. I like Bjorken after one game. Obviously, as long as they take their shots, they should be all right.
Mm-hmm.
But taking 28 threes a game, I mean, they were like 12th in the league in effectiveness, but 28th or dead last in attempts.
Dead last, yeah.
It makes it. I mean, take more shots, you should be all right.
Yeah.
But you're bottom of the league in scoring because you're not taking shots. It makes it very difficult. In the mid-range game, hey, we're not the Spurs. Can we please extend it 2 steps and hit a jump shot?
That was one thing I noticed with Miles last night is he popped a couple times to 20 feet. And that was like in the first quarter, second quarter, somewhere like that. And then later on in the game, he was popping behind the 3-point line. And so that was a good, I don't know if that was an in-game adjustment or just coincidence that he just did that, but something he needs to focus on for sure.
I mean, you'll see, like, I have to post stuff on Facebook, right, for the 8.9 seconds, and like everybody will comment like, Miles is not a good shooter. Stop saying he is. It's like, I mean, for a big man, for a 7-footer, he's a pretty good shooter from deep.
He's a good shooter.
They just do not let him shoot. I mean, when you're getting like 3 attempts a game, you're not.
Well, no, he doubled his attempts last year from 2 to 4. It's like, that's not enough. That's not even close. He should double it again down here.
Yeah, if he can get 7, 8 3-point shots up a game, he's going to be in a very good spot. But Pacers fans are very brutal. It's just, he's got to get rebounds. He's a big guy. He got to rebound. That's all that matters. Like, Domas is going to get the rebounds down low. Don't worry about it. I mean, it's just a brutal space. But, I mean, other than that, Miles, he's in a tough spot because he does everything he can for the team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, fans either love him or hate him. And
there's no in between at all.
No, and hopefully they can find a way to get him maximized, but I don't have any sort of high hopes because it hasn't happened yet. So, I mean, that's all I've got. I think nothing else has come to me. If you guys got any questions or anything you want to talk about, feel free. I mean, if you want to cry because the Knicks suck,
no,
I don't.
No, I don't have anything else. I'll just end it with this. My bold prediction for the NBA season: Pascal Siakam finishes top 3 in MVP voting. That's all I'll say. That's my bold prediction for this NBA season, and I'll just leave you guys with that.
Who do you think wins it?
Luka.
Luka, I think, yeah.
No, I don't think so.
That was very quick of a no for a guy who's very well on pace to win an MVP very soon.
I see probably I don't know. I see probably like Kevin Durant, either Kevin Durant or Giannis. I mean, it's just
I don't think Giannis gets 3 in a row. Voter fatigue. I don't know.
I mean, I see where you're coming from. Yeah, I mean, hell, maybe LeBron messes around and cashes in another one. You know,
it's always
for the road.
It's always he's off to a slow start. He's not going to get it as a big into the season, big second half, and he's at least in the conversation. Definitely not going to be Siakam.
No, I didn't say he's going to win. I say he's going to finish top 3.
That's still.
And it's not going to be 1 or 2.
I think one guy that I think could be a sleeper is Tatum, but I don't think he's quite there yet.
No, he's garbage.
That's
okay. Well, garbage in the terms of MVP.
He'll finish higher than Siakam this year.
Ooh, well, I respectfully disagree.
No, okay. Kimba out for the first 15 games. He'll come back in January. Hayward gone.
Sure.
Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum will both be All-Stars this year. That's my prediction.
Yeah. I really like Jaylen Brown. I wish the Pacers back. There was 2 years ago, I was like, they could trade
Ford
Turner for
Domas
Jaylen
extension.
Brown. Yeah, I'm like, I would have taken it. I would have taken Jaylen Brown, but obviously he's blossomed into a damn near star. So I just think Tatum is he's got that killer instinct that I think a lot of superstars need. And we saw, I mean, he's 22. Him and Luke are the future of the league. I think both of them are going to be up there this year. I think Luka does win it. At least if he doesn't win it this year, he's locking it in next year. So
Julius
Randle could be up there.
He's definitely
no. Julius Randle ain't finishing top 50. Let's get that straight. So, well, Rhett, where can they find you? Where can they find your work at?
So on Twitter, I'm at RHETTBAUER _ in there. Rhett _ Bauer. And then, like Luke said, I'm writing for 8 points, 9 seconds, and I've got a piece coming out here soon for what is TJ Warren worth? So be sure to check that out. It's a huge question that the Pacers are going to have to answer that brings a lot of interesting caveats for what the future of the team could look like.
100%. Down in the description below, we'll be able to link links, Luke's Twitter, my Twitter, Rhett's Twitter. Be able to check out both their work on 8 points, 9 seconds. They both do fine jobs over there. And make sure to go follow them both, guys.
Yeah, and I also, I run the 8 points, 9 seconds Twitter account. So usually if the Pacers are on, I'll be trying to live tweet that. I just started that. Well, I mean, I've been running the account for a month, but obviously they haven't had the games yet. So try to do that throughout the season when I can watch. So, yeah, if you want to, I guess, follow along there, you can. And then I'll just be writing Pacers, Vikings stuff. Vikings, we'll get into that on Thursday, I believe, is when we're going to record. So I've got a lot of shit I want to get off my chest about this week. So brutal.
Homeboy's not doing too good in the picks, guys. That's a spoiler alert. But,
yeah, dude, it's been a disaster. I'm out so much money. But yeah, I think that's all I've got. I mean, if you guys have any parting thoughts, go for it. If not, we'll catch you guys on Thursday. Thanks again to Rhett for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
not a problem.
Get some Pacers talk in there, and hopefully they have a good season. Obviously, we want to bar any injuries. That's been a huge, what's that word? A crutch, so to speak. Nice little pun there, but yeah. Good season of NBA basketball ahead. We'll have all sports really coming up. We'll have hockey, baseball, basketball, football, all coming up real soon.
Mm-hmm.
Come back Thursday, hear my thoughts on NFL, college football.
Yeah.
I don't know what else happened this week.
Well, just like this week, we'll try to bring you Thursday's show in the light. You know, that's
Yeah, we'll be on time maybe. We have been late to about 15 of them in a row. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. Be back Thursday. Hopefully it's a Thursday morning, and get this show on the road.
All righty, guys. Peace out.
Yep. See ya.